everyone. Welcome to the Kimberly Cloud Show. I am your host, Kimberly Cloud. I have a very special guest here for the show for round two for a 30-minute segment. Can you go ahead and announce to the world who you are and where you're calling from again?
Yeah, hi Kimberly. Great to be back. I'm Rob Kalwarowsky. I'm an executive coach, author, and speaker, and I'm calling from beautiful Costa Rica.
Okay. And can you go ahead and tell me about your past leading up into the present, detailed?
Absolutely. And so I'm an MIT mechanical engineer by training, and I started my career working in heavy industry in mining in Western Canada, and I had a hard time with my first boss, which led to some depression and a suicide attempt in 2013. And I kept moving jobs and trying to move places to see if I could find something that was more fitting to me. And ultimately, it took a ton of deep internal work. But yeah, in 2021, I quit my engineering career and became a leadership coach. And then since then,
Did your boss give you negative constructive criticism or did
it was
huh?
it wasn't constructive.
Oh wow. Can you tell me the
Yeah.
what he was or she was doing?
Yeah, it was a he, and yeah, it was very much passive aggressive. It was very much there was like bullying as part of it, and then there was the other side of it was like taking credit for my work. And so it was kind of a mash of a bunch of different of the bad boss archetypes. But yeah, it was very hard. And it's something that, almost the stats that I have say 65% of folks have a bad boss. And so it's super common that we see this across workplaces.
Do you think that some people should create some type of workforce where they go inside the job and retrain the bosses about constructive criticism, handing it off like in a more positive light and not doing, this argumentative type of aggression towards their employees?
Yeah, so when I teach giving feedback, right? Best practices says you should balance both positive and negative feedback. I don't like the feedback sandwich. I don't like those type of things. And I don't want folks to think about the balance as in this specific conversation we're going to have. We need to say, hey, you did, Kimberly, this was great. And I'd like you to improve this next time. Right. But this is more like an overall strategy, so you're not being too negative, but you're also not being too positive, because that creates this culture of like, I can't do anything wrong, everything's wonderful, right? The next thing is, do it quickly, as fast as practical, and just make it part of the things you do. And so let's say, Kimberly, you just did a presentation, we're walking, in the hallway just right after it. It would be something like, hey, Kimberly, next time you do this presentation, I would love if you had more numbers or more strategy or whatever that is. Right. So it's not this big, like, oh, you got to come to my office. We got to sit down. We got to chat. This kind of thing. It's just sort of like, this quick moment. So now it's part of the culture. And then the other side of it is keeping it future focused and on the process or the decisions, not on the person. So don't say things like, hey, Rob, you're an idiot. It's like, okay, next time, how did you arrive at this decision? Oh, okay, next time, maybe think about it in this different way.
That's definitely not a right tactic to do, which is call somebody an idiot. How did this affect you? Like, what did you said you almost committed suicide, right? Tell me
Yes.
about that day or that night where you almost did it for my audience to hear so that they can um see what it's like and because everybody goes through stuff and to hear it, they may change their story about committing suicide themselves.
The biggest thing I want folks to take away is, one is it's okay to ask for help. And so I I didn't for it was around 9 months after I was depressed. Um, and then the other side is, when you're asking for help, you're gonna have to do it a lot. And the reason I say this is, when I started doing treatment, a lot of it was not helpful for me. So the medication didn't work the first time. Um, they're very much, like, kind of hit or miss. They try the things that are most common, and then those don't always. It's not like fixing. Like, I had broken arms when I was a kid, right? And you walk in, they go, "Oh, X-ray says this." They said it, boom, and like 6 to 8 weeks later, you're healed, right? And so in my mind, I was like, "Oh, this is how that works." And mental health is a whole new ball. The same thing is with therapists. So you'll definitely want to do therapy, and medication may or may not be a good thing for you, but both is I'm actually on both right now, and both have been very helpful for me. And so therapy, again, it's finding the right therapist for you. So the person who works for me may not work for you, Kimberly. It's a lot of it is how we feel in our relationship with our therapist. And then some of it is roughly 20% of it is the modalities that our therapists use. And so some people, there's like talk therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy. These are very common. And if you're going through some really, you want to excavate like deep trauma, like EMDR is the leading therapy for that right now. And that's really good for things like PTSD, um, those type of conditions.
Who would know that somebody just getting a job, would have to take therapy because of their boss. I take cognitive behavior therapy and I'm on medication too.
Yeah.
But, you know, um, just because of a boss. And that leads me to the next question. I think managers aren't being held accountable for their actions because of the CEOs that don't want to lose them as managers, or however. I think, like I said before, that there needs to be a new type of systeming where they get held accountable for and they get watched like they watch the employees, and they get redirected of what they should be doing. And if they get watched, they won't be calling people idiots, and so forth. I think they should be watched and redirected if they don't know how to constructively criticize people in a positive manner. What do you think about that? Do you think that somebody should talk about everywhere in the world, or just start off with the US or even Costa Rica, going into corporate workplaces and talking with corporate accounts about you know, talking to these managers or talking to the employees foremost and seeing what the employees have to say without them ending up being fired, because of what they have to say, and seeing what, talking to the managers and telling the managers, what the employees have to say without giving out their names, and then going over a list of things that they should do better to better the retention rate that is going on at that workplace. What do you think?
Yes, absolutely. So I just want to, like, for folks out there, right? 85% of people who become managers do not get training. I just want to let that sit
I
for a
didn't know
moment,
that.
because when I heard this statistic, and Harvard Business Review had another statistic where it was like the average person becomes a supervisor at 29, and then they get their first leadership development training at 42. And so I'm sitting here going, holy crap. Now I'm trying to think of any job in the world that you can do without any training at all. And I was like, well, even my sister, when she was in high school, like she's 15, 16, right? And she got a job at a fast food restaurant. The first few, like the first week or something, they're like, this is how you cook a burger. This is how you cook fries. This is how you run the cash. This is how, right? And it's like, right. And then like for me, obviously as an engineer, like I went to college, I had a 4-year degree. Then I had to do like some exams to prove that I actually remembered stuff I learned in college. And then I had to work 4 years as an engineer in training, like basically an apprentice under a professional, like a certified professional engineer who would sign off on my work, right? And then with managers, it's just like, hey, you're a great, like, you worked really hard at, at engineering, or you're a great salesperson. Now you're a manager, right? So that's the first thing. And so if you're out there and you're a middle manager, like one is you need to get some training, right? And I can help you with this. You can reach out to me. There's lots of leadership development also in the world. Now, one thing I do want to mention is Harvard Business Review also talks about, there's a stat that there's $356 billion spent on leadership development every year, and only 25% of it is actually moving the needle. And that's because that training also addresses the leader's mindset or their psychology. So not all leadership training is made equal.
Okay. Not all leadership is made equal. Um, that leads me to my next question. So if not all leadership is made equal, then why is it that you got all these billion, is it $1 billion you said, or 1,300,000?
356 billion.
Oh my God. And none of it gets like, that's what I don't get.
A quarter is good, yes. So like 75. Well, basically folks are like spending, 250 million, and which is a waste. Or billion,
So
sorry.
what
Yeah.
you were in the group. What do you think should be done? What do you think, as an individual, of being in there, being bullied and almost committing suicide? What do you think should be done to get the corporate world? And even sometimes this even happens in Burger King or McDonald's too, with the bullying and stuff. What do you
It
think should
absolutely
be
does.
done?
Yes. Yes. It absolutely does. At every job, also folks in their families, like it happens across the, like also, schools, everything from
Something needs to
kindergarten to
change.
grade 12 to college, to everything, right? Now, this is why the mindset and the psychology is so important. And this is why I spend a vast majority of what I do as a coach working with my leaders on their psychology, and then sprinkling in the leadership strategies that work. Because
I think that you should be an international thing. I think that this what you got going on should be like an international thing, and it should be huge because you have experience with being bullied. And I really feel like I'm glad that you do podcasts about this, and you know your statistics very well. And if you're out there listening, like, please, at the end I will ask him how can he be reached, and please reach out to him, because, like, seriously, this can be an internet. He's in Costa Rica, and please reach
I
out to
travel.
him. Yeah, yeah, please reach out to him, because it's like he knows what he's talking about. Like, seriously, and these things has to be addressed. And you have to be able to collaborate with other people, like probably in America and other places to make it work, because you can't be in, other places at the same time. But like seriously, I think this is a brilliant idea what you're doing to help people grow their mindset from being bullied to and depressed to growing into a better entrepreneur, a better having a better business, or learning how to try to have resources to help them with depression. Whatever you do, you're doing a great job at it. Like, I just had to say that. And you can
Thank you so
continue
much.
with what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, the vast majority of my clients are actually in the United States. I have some in Europe as well,
Oh,
but it's totally a thing. Um, but I mean, Kimberly, this is exactly it, right? Is when we're children, we learn how to basically be safe and alive in the world. Like our psychology develops very young. And then we're now 45 and we're running, a company, or we're running a department of 100 people, or we're managing like a major project worth millions or billions of dollars. But we're still using the beliefs that were created in our mind between, when we're born and, 13, 14, 15 years old. And that's the reason why we see that folks do end up bullying. It's not their fault. It was created when they were young to protect them from not feeling a certain way, shame or pain or suffering.
I
And
was
then now
talking
they're
about
acting
that.
this way.
I was talking about that generational downfall, I call it, where it's a generational thing. It's you can blame it on the parents, but then it could be the parents' parents, and then it could be the parents' parents' parents. It's a generational thing, and I you have to break the chain from that, and you have to rewire the brain, and it's harder than it looks to do.
Yes, you're absolutely right. There's intergenerational trauma. Like for me specifically, I had to work on some stuff because my grandparents were in World War II, right? Um, the other side of it is sometimes it's not that anybody did anything wrong. It's just our child, like our brain as children, we misinterpret an event. And so I always talk about this one is like, let's say we're playing with our, toys, and we're sitting, next to the kitchen, and our older brother or sister walks in the door, and our mom's, doing something in the kitchen, and the older brother or sister goes, "Hey mom, I got an A on my math test." And your mom goes, "Amazing. I love you. I'm so proud of you." And your brain goes, as a 5-year-old, you're hearing this, you're seeing it, you go, "Oh, if I do well on my math test, then my mom will love me." It's not that your mom or your older brother or sister did anything wrong. Nobody did anything wrong in this. It was just the interpretation of a 5-year-old of an event. And then that sits in your mind, and you're going, now you're 45 and you're running your company, and one of your salespeople sends something that's incorrect to a client. They make the wrong pitch deck, they put the wrong pricing on it, they put the wrong date, they make a mistake, whatever that is.
Mhm.
And you're not even consciously aware of this, but the client comes back and says something like, "This is wrong," or that, whatever that is. And now you're yelling at that person because basically somewhere in your subconscious, you're like, "I'm unloved by my mom now." And none of that's like real. Like it's real, but it's not real. Like nobody made a mistake ever. and you'll never know about what's going on up here. And it's not your fault that you're behaving the way you are until you start going, oh, I can change that behavior, but I got to change my mind first. And that's the reason why going into our psychology is step one, because when we change that, then when that person makes the mistake, we can actually step back and go, oh, you know what? It's a mistake. We can actually fix this. And it's not a big deal. Or it is a big deal, but we can move to fix this. We don't have to take an action where we're breaking trust with our team, we're behaving inappropriately, whatever that is. We can be beyond that, and we can fix the problem, or we can think like of other solutions of how to fix it.
With the mom thing, you said that he thinks that his mom don't love him no more. That is pretty deep. That is pretty deep. And that could be true where, he thinks that he's a failure because of somebody else's wrongdoings, and his mom thinks that, or he thinks that his mom don't love him no more because he failed at somebody else's failures. Yeah, that I never thought about it that way. But that you're going somewhere with that. That is deep psychology. I didn't think about that. But that's plausible. Yeah, yeah. Um,
The, the subconscious patterns and beliefs that we run on, like it's actually like meaningful. So neuroscientifically, like in order to reduce the basically the caloric expenditure of our brains, we use these programs, right? And it's like we develop them when we're young, and then now they just run. And that's why we, like 95 to 97% of the decisions we make every day are these programs that are running in our minds. And so the only way to truly change behavior in a way that's sustainable is to change our minds. And that's why, if I said to you, Kim, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about, how do you run a one-on-one meeting and how to be a leader in that one-on-one meeting time, it works for, a week or two, and then you're back to how you did it before because you didn't change your actual mind. And that's why most leadership development training is just ineffective.
so what do you think, how can the core values change people? Like how would you suggest that these value, because you got a lot of people that actually sit up there and write these books. They write these books, and then they do these conferences and stuff, and it's like it doesn't sink into people. So what do you suggest? More of a less populated area where they have like 10 people instead of like 300 people or something, where they're explaining to the people and getting more open dialogue, like a two-way communication, instead of 300 or 500 or 1,000 people to one person, where there's no open dialogue to a question or something, because that's where you learn, from questions.
Ultimately, each person needs to engage with this work. And the hardest part
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
that most of us don't realize we need to engage with it until we run into a problem. And this is completely normal. This is the human condition, right? So either we can't get promoted at work, or we were burnt out, or we're not accomplishing our goals, or we're not feeling good. Like, these are the reasons folks come to me and they want to engage in this work. And really, the work is not like, it can take time, but we can move stuff very, like, pretty quickly. Like, I've had folks have like big breakthroughs in our first session that have like changed
Tell
their
me one.
business.
Tell me one miracle story in under 2 minutes, and because we're running out of time. Tell me one miracle story in under 2 minutes.
Absolutely. So I had a session with person. She runs a management consulting company, and we dug into some of the mindset work that we do. And in 45 minutes, she realized that she wasn't charging enough. And 2 weeks later, she charged a client another 60% on a project. And there you go.
Cool. And if you had to give a piece of advice to a young entrepreneur out there, what would it be?
What makes you successful at raising money or getting your business off the ground will not make you successful at taking that business from 25, 50 people to multiple hundred people. That's when you need to change your psychology and your leadership, because that's what'll get you to a big successful business, is like the unicorns that you want to be.
Cool. And how can the people reach you?
Absolutely. So I'm Rob Kalwarowsky on LinkedIn, KALWAROWSKY. And then my website is also robkalwarowsky.com. And I do one-on-one coaching. I do group coaching. So if you're listening, you're like, hey, we need leadership development at our company, reach out to me. We obviously work both with psychology and leadership practices. I also do this. I mean, of course, I do it one-on-one. My typical folks are entrepreneurs in scaling companies or executives. I work with Fortune 500 executives or folks that are leading big teams. And then I do also keynote speaking. So if you're running an event or you have a leadership summit with your company, check that out too. And yeah, if you want the first 2 chapters of my book for free, if you go to my website and just put in your email, we will email that to you too.
You actually did TEDx, right?
I did. Yes, my TEDx talk, How to Handle a Bad Boss, on YouTube, and it's almost at 250,000 views right now. So check it out.
Can, we still got like 2 minutes, so can you walk me through the process of what it took? Like once you got approved for TEDx, what happened? Like, did they rehearse with you? Did they tell you the pointers to go at? Like, what happened?
So I would recommend for folks out there is really trying to figure out what you want to talk about first. Then start applying to events. Now, apply to the ones that are meaningful to you. So in your city, maybe you went to college in this other town, like they want folks that are somewhat considered local. You'll get rejected by a lot. Like I got rejected at, I don't know, 25 before I got one, something like that, right? So it's totally normal. But then when you start to get accepted, that's when you'll want to like make sure that you work on your talk. I would also recommend getting a coach for this. I had a speaker coach who helped me, and my talk was vastly better than I could have done myself. The TEDx coaching can vary based on event. They're supposed to give you a speaker coach, but it depends on the organizer's bandwidth and or their connections in terms of the quality of coach you get. So just yeah, but you'll work on it. You'll definitely want to rehearse and remember it. And then when you get to the venue, there'll be a couple days where you'll get to go up on the stage and practice, which is super helpful. Would also recommend practicing in front of your friends or family, like in your living room. And then, yeah, have fun.
Well said. I want to thank you guys for watching my show today. Thank you, Rob, for being a great member of the Kimberly Cloud Show. You are a member now. And y'all take care, be safe, stay on the line, Rob. And I will see y'all another time. Bye.
Never waste my time. You are I want.